right, so as Tariq mentioned, today we're going to be talking about evolving quality through a culture of learning. I am Julia Pottinger. I'm the head of training and development at QualityWorks. And what that really means, I'm in charge of curating that culture of learning that we have. I'm in charge of ensuring that everybody's career path is aligned to the trainings that we do. They're growing, they are improving in their different skill sets that they have. We also do different type of recruitment through boot camps, persons that are interested in joining tech, but they probably didn't have that traditional background of doing computer science in university. We also have boot camps to help those persons get into tech as well. We had one that just ended, and that was really well taken up. We had over 200 applicants. We are going to have a next one starting on Saturday, where that one is about test automation, UI test automation. So that's more for persons who are already in tech, but they want to learn more about test automation because they haven't done so already. You can connect with me on different platforms. I am a YouTuber in a sense. I do YouTube videos on test automation, WebDriver IO, how to grow your career in quality. I blog about the same topics at juliapottinger.com. I am a Test Automation University instructor, and Test Automation University, Vernon mentioned it yesterday. It's a really great platform that Angie Jones created. If you are interested in learning more about test automation, it gets you started with test automation strategies, different programming languages. I have a course on WebDriver IO that you can check out. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about what a culture of learning is, the benefits that you can get from it, what a good culture looks like, what a bad culture looks like, as well as I'll walk you through the steps that I use to create a culture at QualityWorks, and the steps that you can also use to create one in your organization. I'll also highlight some challenges that I faced so that you don't have to face those as well, or that you can mitigate those challenges and address them properly. So what's a culture of learning? To me, it's a place or an environment where people are actively encouraged. They are actively going about trying to learn, trying to share with others, trying to upskill themselves. And it's supported by the leaders. It's not just the team that's pushing the effort. The leaders are also pushing the effort. The business objectives are aligned with the learning objectives, and everything kind of comes together as a cohesive whole. Some benefits that you can get and that I have seen from creating a culture of learning. It creates better processes. When I do a training, the trainings are documented, they are recorded, they're shared to different persons in the organization, and they can use it and look back at it in their own time. We have had better onboarding processes just because of a culture of learning. If you've gone through something with a culture of learning, if it was a difficult process, you don't want the next person to go back through that difficult process. So you're going to spend some time just documenting how the process can be better, how it can be improved. What are some things that they should have probably known from the get-go that wasn't shared, and you help to improve that documentation. You are seeing a lot of growth and promotion. Within QualityWorks, we do a lot of internal promotion. People, goals are aligned to what they want to go in their career. If you want to be an SDET, if you want to become a senior consultant, you are given specific trainings that are going to help you move you forward to those specific areas. So it's a learning culture. You aren't stuck in one place. You aren't feeling like, I want to get to the next level and you can't. Particular for me, I started at QualityWorks as an intern, and through the culture of learning that we have, I'm now a director or a head of. So I've moved from an intern to a lead, to a senior, to a manager throughout having the opportunities to learn and grow. And so by having that culture in your company, persons do not feel stagnant. There was a talk yesterday about how we retain employees, how we promote employees, and how that allows them to do better quality code because they feel more secure, they feel more invested in. So by having those type of things, persons feel like they're being invested in, and that contributes to the overall quality of the product that comes out, the code that is being written, and everything else. That also flows into like mastery of different areas. So if you have different topics that people learn about, so performance testing, you can learn more about that, security testing, areas that are sometimes considered niche, but are really important, accessibility testing. By having a culture of learning, you are opening the company to learning more about all of those different areas so that you can sometimes master those areas and have it in your organization. Satisfaction is a given with all of that. We do yearly or every 6 months just a survey of employee satisfaction, and year over year our satisfaction has improved. And most of the comments have to do with they feel valued, they feel invested in, because there's a culture of learning, there is budget for learning, there's time set aside for learning. Some other benefits have to do with innovation and creativity. So you maybe have this idea, you aren't sure how to do it, you sit down and you brainstorm with someone and you suddenly get this drive. Have you ever been stuck on a problem and just by talking to someone, you solve it? They don't even have to say anything, but you just share it with them, and then all of a sudden, it's like eureka, you've figured out the solution. We have a lot of innovation that has happened at QualityWorks. One of that is Quality Watcher, which is a test case management tool that we have where it uses AI to derive test cases. So you enter your user stories and Quality Watcher is going to derive test cases from that. You can connect your test automation to test runs in Quality Watcher. So that was come up with by Dimitri Harding, one of our consultants there. Just because we have that culture, people are being more innovative. They are integrating Slack reporters into WebDriver IO in their code so that everybody can see the reports when test automation is being run. Because we have these open sessions where everybody can contribute, even somebody that's just entry, they've been with the company 3 months or 6 months, they're exposed to these different things, these different ideas. And so they too feel like they can create something great, they can do something great, and it just comes together. That increases productivity because you aren't stuck on a problem by yourself for 2 months, a week. You now have access to anybody. I'm at the director level, anybody can come to me and say, hey, I'm stuck on this problem, can you help me? It's not a closed door. They can always put a time on my calendar, or they send me a message in Slack, or if we're having a weekly meeting, they can raise their hand and say, hey, I have this issue, and people are just jumping to help them because we have that culture. Everybody's looking to help each other. And that closes skill gaps because there's no longer this barrier where I'm at this level, I can only know this and no more. There's this openness where others are able to learn. And that helps you to keep pace with technology. We have a lot of different sessions. Tariq was even invited to speak at my company on AI, different technologies that are emerging. If you don't have that knowledge in-house, you can invite persons to come and talk about it in different sessions that you may have. And that allows you to, if there's a new technology coming out, you have a quick session on it, you can have the person that's creating it come in, share about it, and see how that can be implemented in your organization. Everything won't be applicable. There's a lot of technology that comes out. You may not want to follow up each one, but if it's applicable to what you're doing, you can decide if you want to follow through with that or not. Employee empowerment. I specifically added this one because I feel it's important that the learning culture isn't just about work. We are multifaceted human beings. Life extends beyond work. So sometimes think about how you can share things with your coworkers and your employees that will help them grow as a full human being. I recently did a session on life skills. So how do you purchase a house? How do you clear off your student loan debt? How do you budget? How do you set proper career goals? And that session was a really big hit because the company that I work for, a lot of us are under 30, 25. We're looking to start families. We have that looming student loan debt, and it's like affecting how we work because that's life. So if you can see how different topics can be integrated into what you do, maybe investment, integrate that because life extends beyond work. It doesn't always have to be a session about how to write code, how to use the latest technology. Try to ensure that it's a rounded learning culture where people, if they're having a problem in life, they feel comfortable enough to come and say, hey, I would like some more knowledge about how I can go about buying a car. What's the best interest rates that are out there? Because those things, when life is at a certain quality, it reflects in the work that we do. And then finally, there is a shared learning vision by everyone on the team. Everybody is very helpful, everybody is very kind, and they try to be their brothers and sisters' keeper because they have learned so much, they're sharing back the knowledge, and they understand that culture. So what does a good learning culture look like? As stated, it involves everybody in the organization. Learning is continuous. So learning doesn't just stop at sessions like these, for example. It continues through Slack conversation, peer meetings. You're working on somebody on a team, you have a quick sync call with them to go through test cases or problems or bug tickets. You are able to feel empowered to become subject matter experts. So a lot of the trainings that we do at Quality Works, it's conducted by people that work there. So I help them to feel like they have a voice, and they do have a voice because they have been working on this problem. Maybe it's a unique solution, such as automating how to verify emails when you get emails. Sometimes you log in, you get an email to verify your registration. If you have a unique solution like that, I may ask you to do a session on it. How did you do that? How did you do that Slack reporter? Stuff like that. So persons feel like they have the ability to be a trainer, to be a tutor. And I'll talk later on about how you train the trainers, because it's not as easy sometimes as it looks to come up and put together a talk. So I'll go into that further on. But a good learning culture just encourages everybody on a whole. It's aligned to the organizational goal. It's aligned to your goals. Where do you want to be? Where do you have a 2-year career plan? How does the culture support that and allows you to learn about different things that you need to have with that? And then it's accessible. So whether that's having captioning on for persons that need it, whether that's having it to be accessible in terms of persons that can see and they need to hear the training, whether that's having it in a central location so that after the training, maybe I wasn't there because I had to run to collect my children or something like that, I can now come back and access those resources. It's in a central location that everybody knows how to access it, and it's not hidden away. It's really recordings, documentation, everything that you need. Time for training is really important, because we can talk about the need to train, the connecting it with your career goals, but that's just talk. The time to train and the budget to do it is the action behind it. Are you, as a company, do you have time set aside where it could be a specific day where you say the last Friday of every month, you have the day to learn? It could be you have this amount of hours per year, or you have this training budget that you can use to go to conferences like these. What action have the leaders in your company, or if you're the leader in your company, what action have you put into place to allow persons to learn? And throughout the history of Quality Works, we have tried different things. So we first gave half day once a month, but it kind of wasn't structured. So persons were like, okay, it's a free half day. So, because work is a lot. So, I'll just use it and rest. So balancing that with some form of structure is not enough to just give the time and give the budget, but have actionable items behind it, have deliverables, have metrics that you're looking to meet that comes from that. Because if you just give the time, there's so many things that we can do beyond just sitting and reading a book or watching a video. So what does a bad learning culture feel and look like? Because we have good ones, but we do have bad ones. And sometimes they're not bad because that's the intent. It's just bad because that's kind of how it formed into. Similarly with how when we gave the time to learn, it didn't really materialize how we thought, because people were trying to learn and we're like, okay, cool, here's some time, go and learn. It didn't really have the impact that we wanted it to have. So a bad learning culture, learning isn't really prioritized. It's always the release, things that are happening, what's the next big thing, but you never get the time to learn. You're working and you feel as if you're always being thrown out into the water without a life raft. It isn't something that feels good. You feel like you're constantly having to dig yourself through a tunnel because there's nobody that you can turn to say, hey, how do you do this thing? It's always just up in the air. You don't have any time, you don't have any budget, you want to come to a conference, you have to find it out of your own pocket. Pay probably isn't even enough to do that. Then the conference, if I'm in Jamaica, before COVID, a lot of the conferences weren't accessible to me. I would have to go get a US visa or go get a UK visa. Now that when conferences were online, it opened up a whole different world for me to join those conferences because I didn't have to pay money to get a visa, which I probably got or probably didn't get. Fortunately, I got them, but some persons don't, and that money is not refundable to you. And traveling to a different country, you have to find a hotel, you have to find food, you have to find travel. So it's a lot of money that compounds. So if your organization isn't contributing to that, that's a whole lot of money, especially for the Jamaican currency. That's a whole different conversation. But so find out how you can help different persons in your organization. Do they need the budget? And even if they don't need it, sometimes don't have them ask, offer it. Don't let it be a situation where they have to ask for something, offer it. And share knowledge easily. Like we have weekly team huddles. Last huddle, somebody just came and they learned something and they were sharing about Oktoberfest, which is a hackathon month that happens in the tech space where you are encouraged to contribute to open source. They heard about it, they saw some cool projects that they thought people should join and they just shared it. There isn't one prize. So it doesn't harm you to share your knowledge with someone else. You aren't racing for one trophy. Many people can get the trophy. You don't have to keep the knowledge to yourself. I'm encouraging you, share the knowledge. You see somebody struggling, help them. With a bad learning culture, employees have no input. So imagine if I was the head of training and I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. And somebody was like, but this is allied. I'm like, no, this is what we're doing. And somebody else says, but what if? I'm like, no, this is what we're doing. Employees they're like the source of truth, for lack of a better word. They know what's happening on the projects. They know what they need to learn. They know what can benefit them. Granted, you will have some expertise if you're in charge of it to say, this is how we can be better, but it's like a whole team decision. Employees should have some say into what they are going to learn. How does it align with what they want to do? And there should be a learning plan at the end of every year, actually in Q4, which is what I'm trying to do now. I plan for the next year and I start having meetings with everybody that is going to be impacted by it. So the CEOs, the head of HR, head of sales, what are clients looking for? What technologies do they want to see us using as a consulting company? And I meet with different persons. It can be the person that started last week. It can be the person that's been there for 5 years. What do you want to learn next year? And how can I put that together? And then I maybe have 20 topics, but we're only having 12 workshops. I'll do a poll to the general Slack group and be like, okay, these are the shortlisted 20 topics. Let's do a vote to see which 12 we come up with. If somebody really wanted a topic and it didn't fall in line, it may not be a workshop, it may be a lunch lesson session, which is a 1-hour session. So find different ways to incorporate what people want to learn. And I mentioned before, having the material centralized and accessible. With a bad learning culture, change is difficult. So your company may have bought a software, they've spent a lot of money on it, and I won't name any softwares, but I've been on a project where we were called in to do test automation, and from the very first time I saw the tool, I was like, yikes. And why don't you use this tool? I did a presentation and everything lined up, but they were like, we've already spent money buying the tool, we're not changing. nothing that I could have said would have changed their mind about using that tool. You don't want to have a learning culture where change is so hard to come by, it's so rigid. And sometimes it comes down to dollars and cents. We've already invested, so it's going to be really hard for us to change this thing. But try to have a culture where if it doesn't change in one quarter, it should be able to be changed in the next, because learning and technology continues to change over time. Also, there is no interest. There are some persons that when it may want to talk to them about learning, they may think, I know it all. Why do I need to learn this thing? I'm already been doing it. There's always a new perspective to be gained. And what I love about coming to conferences like these, even though sometimes you know the topic, the approach that the person took may be different, their perspective on it may be different. So just be open-minded about that. All right, so the meat of the matter, how do you create a culture of learning, and a great culture of learning at that? So these are some things that I would have done at Quality Works that you can do in your organization as well. The first thing is to identify what currently exists. I mean, you can't start creating a culture if you don't know what's there. It's like, yeah, but firstly, think of the gaps. You identify what a good culture is, you see what the benefits are. Does what you currently have fit into the description of a good learning culture, or does it fit into a bad learning culture? Are you currently getting the benefits that you want from it? If you aren't, then write those down, see how you can get those benefits. Is there a centralized location? Maybe you're having time, but it's not a structured time. So think about and compare it to what a good learning culture is, what a bad learning culture is, because a lot of time there is a culture. It may not be known to everybody. It may not be shared. It may be within just a few groups. Maybe a few persons do some peer programming here and there. Maybe a few persons meet and share knowledge. But how do you make it a company-wide thing? How do you involve your Scrum Masters, your developers, your QA, your product owners? How do you involve your CEOs? How do you involve everybody so that it's not just siloed to one group? What are the strengths and weaknesses of what you currently have? What is going well? What is not going so well? What can be improved? What would you like to see? And what's the current process? Is that process documented anywhere? I like documentation because sometimes I forget what the process is. So like I take a lot of notes. So if I see something, I open my phone and I take the note right away, because it helps me to remember what my thought process was in that time, what the expectation is, what the outcomes is, what are the metrics that I'm trying to align what I'm doing to. So just check what the process is, and if it's documented good, a lot of times the information is in people's head, especially in new projects where persons have the project's been going on for a number of years, and you go on that project and you're like, okay, how do I onboard? How do I get started? And you're like, okay, go talk to this person. You go to talk to this person, you get a bit of the information. You're like, go talk to this next person. So you're like in a circle of talking with different persons. If that situation happens, try to write down what it is so you can become the documenter. Get leadership buy-in. A great learning culture doesn't happen without leadership buy-in. The team can't just be trying to push this learning culture forward without leadership, because they are the one with the money. They're the one that are going to pay for you to go to conferences. They're the one going to pay for speakers to come in if you need. They're the ones that are going to say, okay, this is the time that you can get to learn. So we aren't going to do releases on that day. We aren't going to have this meeting on that day. You can get that specific time. Leaders are also a lot of times the trainers, because they would have a lot of the knowledge. It doesn't always have to be the leaders that are the trainers, but in my experience, persons that, and I say leaders, it's not just CEOs, like senior persons. Those are who I consider leaders as well, because they are the ones that have a lot of experience. Sometimes you have persons that are new that have some experience as well. So don't overlook those persons, but try to have your leaders be trainers. So if they don't give you the buy-in, a lot of the knowledge is kind of lost. So you do want them to give you that buy-in, and you want them to support the processes that you are going to implement. So some sub-points from that. If the leaders are the trainers and the persons on your teams are the trainers, you need to train the trainers. I have found that persons need a bit more guidance to train. You sometimes come to a conference and you watch the person talking and you're like, wow, they make it look so easy. And then you come up there and you're like, oh my God, this is a big room of people. So try to get some practice in, try to give them specific deadlines. So I have a list of expected outcomes. I'm going to need to meet with you the day before the talk. I'm going to need to meet with you a week before the talk. And at that time, your slides are due, your activities are due. So I have specific things that are due. So they know from the get-go, this is when the talk is happening. This is the topic of the talk. Here are some sub-points that I want to see in the talk. When I meet with you 3 weeks before the talk, I expect you to have a draft slide and so on and so forth. Because persons, sometimes if you don't give them that sort of structure, they think they can wait till last minute. I don't know what it is. I am a procrastinator as well. So sometimes it happens to me where I'm like, yeah, I can knock this out. And then I wait and wait. But then I find that sometimes you get the best ideas if you do iterations. So if you wait until last minute, you aren't going to have the best thing because it's just going to be just one draft. If you iterate over something, it becomes so much better. You get so much more ideas of how to share knowledge. And sometimes where the hardship comes in, you know the knowledge, but you don't know how to get it across properly. You don't know that the very first time, like I said, I was going to teach WebDriver IO, I took it for granted that people wouldn't have Node installed or Visual Studio. I'm like, everybody has that, right? So I went and I was like, okay, cool, we're going to get started. And they were like, we don't have Node. We don't have Visual Studio installed. So I had to roll back everything and like, okay, for every training that I do, I have to approach it from the perspective that they're going to be beginners. They're going to be persons that know nothing. They don't have my years of experience. So writing out those instructions for those persons take time. And so sometimes we take that for granted. So encouraging them to put in that time and guide them on how to do it is really important. There is this intersection between persons who have the knowledge and those who train well. And there is a small intersection between both. I've been to sessions where people that we call technical and they're talking about the code and I left and I understand code. I've been coding. I left not understanding a thing because I felt like they were talking to themselves. They were like, okay, and they were excited about the code but it wasn't being brought across properly. They weren't using clear examples. They weren't using relatable scenarios. They didn't have the code big enough, so I was squinting to see what was on the slide. Just simple things like those. There is a small intersection of people that do it well. Now we can train people that don't have the knowledge to get the knowledge by coming to our different sessions. And over time, with years of experience, they'll get that. You can also train people that have the knowledge to become better presenters. Sometimes people don't have the confidence. They have imposter syndrome. They feel like they don't know enough, but they do. And you just need to help them to bring it out of it, bring it out of them. With training, creating great material is really important. So if you realize my slides, it's something that you can use on your own without me being there. You can take this slide and you can learn how to create a culture of learning without me being the voice to it. I like slides like that because I'm a visual learner, and we'll talk about types of learner really soon. I like to read stuff. So when I'm at a presentation, if I'm listening to the person, it may not soak in as much. I like to read the words and I will take notes in my own way, and that's how it's digested to me. So people have different ways of learning, and you have to ensure that the material is matched up to those different types of learning. formalize the creation process. I mentioned before about the process that I have, formalize how that happens, the types of materials that will be created and so on. And then very important, get the team buy-in. So we've gotten leadership buy-in. The team probably is going to be trainers as well. The leaders are trainers, but you need the team buy-in. The team they are the ones that know what's happening on the ground. They know how the project is going. They know what the learning gaps are. So talk with them to see how you can find out how they learn. And we're going to do a really quick quiz afterwards to find out what type of learner you are. If you don't know what type of learner you are, find out what topics they're interested in, because not everybody is interested in the same thing. Not everybody wants to know how to code. Some persons want to learn about accessibility testing, exploratory testing. Some persons like to use mind maps. So there is a wide range of different topics. Don't use yourself as what everybody else wants to know about. Because if you do that, you're going to get it wrong, because everybody is unique, everybody's at a different place in their career, in their lives, and so you need to know that. Also find out what their current tasks are. Are they being overwhelmed, and can you help with that in any way? So there are 3 types of learners. There's a visual learner, and visual means that you like to see words or you like to see images. I'm a visual learner, but I like to see words. So when I did a test strategy, I wrote this lovely documentation with bullets and points, and it spoke to me. Somebody looked at it and they were like, maybe we should use a mind map. And so they created it in a mind map, and I looked at the mind map and it looked really great. It just wasn't speaking to me, but it spoke to them. So even though you're a visual learner, there are different types or subtypes of visual learners. Some persons like things to be aesthetically pleasing. Some people don't like a lot of words. I am a reader, so I like to read. So that was a struggle for me initially when creating my slides, trying not to have too much words on it, trying to have some pictures, some videos, so that everybody can relate to the slide and can feel, get into the slides as well. I'm also a bit of a hands-on learner, especially with code. I have to practice it. I have to try it out myself to see how it works, and that cements my understanding of what's happening. So there are hands-on learners, persons that they need an activity to try it out. So you could be talking. No, they need you to say, okay, here's this activity. Let's go through this activity and let's do it together. And that's when everything you've been saying connects to them. Then you have auditory learner, persons that they can listen to you talk and they get everything, they understand it. So let's quickly look at, so this is a QR code if you scan it. Should take you about a minute. It's going to be a short quiz to see what type of learner you are. So it's going to ask you some questions about if you're in the store, are you going to be looking around at different things? Are you going to look at the person in front of you? And I guess it uses some metric to try and determine the type of learner that you are. Yes? Yeah, that was an issue that I found with it. It was just a quiz I found online. It was the one that I created. So I thought that as well, because I looked at it and I'm like, some of these don't apply to me, but I chose the closest one. So we all learned about the type of learner that we are. Oh, all right, cool. You don't want to do that. That's fine. And go ahead.
Can the type of learner you want to change what you're learning?
Yeah. So for me, with code, I'm a hands-on. With other types of material, I'm more of a word. So if you give me between a video and an article, I read the article. So the question for those on Zoom was, can the type of learner you are change with the type of material you're trying to learn? And the answer is yes, it can. Because I think they give you like a percentage of the type of learner you are. And I guess the higher percentage wins, but that doesn't mean that you don't have traits of the other types of learners, because you still listen to learn, you still try out things to learn. It's just maybe the one that cements things more for you and the one that you go for as a default. All right. So with getting your team buy-in, you have to gather information. I found that people don't really like surveys. So you give them a survey and they're like 50 people and you get like 12 answers. And you're like, well, I need all the answers if I'm going to help create this culture of learning and I'm going to try and get everybody to be addressed, their needs to be addressed, their learning to be addressed. I need the responses. I didn't get it. So what I had to do was I had to schedule like short 15-minute meetings, or I send them an individual Slack message and be like, hey, what do you want to learn? Where are you in your career? And so we have that conversation. So imagine that going through 50 people talking about it. For a larger organization, that may be hard. And that's why you may need a team if you're like in a learning role. But some teams are smaller. Maybe it's just your QA team, maybe 4 or so of you. So that may be easier. I am at fault sometimes for surveys. It's not that I don't want to do it. I just forget sometimes. You're like, okay, I see this survey, it's important, I'm gonna get to it, and then you don't. So yeah, I'm at fault at that sometimes. So try to find different ways, find out how your team is going to respond to you, how you can get the information, because I thought surveys were the answer, they really aren't. And then brainstorming group sessions. So maybe just get everybody in a call, do a quick brain dump, ask them some questions. I find that people talk a little more in social settings where they aren't the only one talking, they aren't the only one kind of being targeted. That's how maybe how they feel to like give a response. So in a group settings, if you do like a brainstorming session, you get different answers, you get a variety of answers there as well. And then with the team, you'll need personal learning paths. I've talked a lot about aligning learning with their career growth. This really helped me to get promotions, increase my knowledge in different areas. So specific topics that they need to know. And this helps you to be more engaged. If I know that what I'm going to be learning about is going to get me a promotion, more money, I mean, I'm in for that. But also persons are going to be just so much more happy because it's something that they need to learn, something that they may be interested in. And then SMART goals. SMART goals are really important. And SMART goals, I try to apply in all of my life. So I'm a big planner. I budget yearly. So that I can see where my life is going. Maybe I need to make a big purchase. Maybe I want to buy a house. So I do stuff like that. And I encourage you to as well, because it really works. For example, if you need to clear some debt, you can see like what your finances is going to look like at the end of the year. But that's a different topic. SMART goals are specific. So it's not this big thing about how you want to conquer the world, maybe. It's really specific to what you need to learn. So for example, I want to understand playwright. That's the specific goal. Then you have, it's measurable. How are you going to know that you have understood playwright? You maybe want to have a project in playwright. So that's what makes it measurable. Or if you're doing a course, you want to complete that course. So Test Automation University probably has a playwright course. Measurable means that you've completed that course and you get a certificate that you maybe want to post on your LinkedIn. It's achievable because it's something that you can do. Maybe achievable also looks at the time in which you're trying to do it. You want the time to be realistic. You don't want to say, I'm going to conquer playwright in a day. That's probably isn't as realistic as giving yourself 2 weeks to a month based on how fast you learn, based on the knowledge that you already have. So I really like SMART goals. You can take a deeper look into it if you want to. Then number 4, plan how to implement. So there are different types of training. There's formal versus informal. So informal is like you've seen somebody and you're talking and like you have a problem and you talk through the problem with them. They help you. You send somebody a Slack message and you're like, how do you do this? Or somebody just share something impromptu. Those are informal sessions. And those are really important because sometimes you get really good learning from those. Formal sessions are the ones that are on your plan. So like if you're a planner like me, it's going to be those workshops, those boot camps that I have scheduled into the calendar. Then you have learning on the job and learning outside work. I'm a big advocate of giving time to learn inside work, but I also recognize that some things can't be done all in that time. I mean, the company still has to make money. The company still has to get things done. So all your time can't be about learning. But if you are new to the company, I believe there should be a specific period for you to onboard. There shouldn't be just you come in and, okay, get all of these things done. I find that to be about 2 weeks onboarding is good because the first week you're spending a lot of documentation, you're getting your VPN set up, you're getting your laptop, you're getting all of that stuff. That's my Jamaica alarm. It's 9 o'clock now. So sorry about that. So with learning outside work, I forgot my point completely. But that's fine. Yeah, I was saying that learning outside work, you sometimes have to do that. So when I was starting my career, I didn't understand JavaScript a lot as I do now. And so I was on projects and I was writing test automation, but I was kind of just following what was going along. I had to realize that, hey, I don't really know what JavaScript as well as I think I did. I know Java, I knew Java a lot, not as much now, but I knew Java a lot at the time. So even though my company was giving me some time to learn, I needed more time than they were giving me. So I had to invest in myself and take a little bit of time instead of watching some Netflix. I just, watch the JavaScript video instead. So you have to find that balance. Yes, your company is going to give you time to learn, but can you invest some of your own time? You're investing in yourself, you're investing in your growth. And that's really important. And then trainings. So this is an QR code. It's a bit small, but that is Tamoya. She talks about a community of practice and how you can go about creating a good community of practice. So a community of practice, maybe they meet after work, they meet every other week, once a week. At Quality Works, we had one called the Dev Club. They were the persons that were interested in the new technologies that were coming out. They had like what was the AWS car thing? They had that was neural learning and all of that stuff. So you would create networks to try and drive the car and have the car self-learn different roads and paths. So we got them the car to see how they could implement those learnings. So those are community of practice, things that aren't necessarily as focused on what the business of the company is, but it's maybe a meetup group or something like that. Then you have trainings on product knowledge. So if onboarding material is good, product material is good, so that somebody that's joining the project, they are able to understand what the product is about, the business logic, and so on. So those types of trainings are good. Code of conduct, and I mentioned onboarding. Then you have workshops and tutorials. Workshops are kind of my favorite. So I do 12 a year at Quality Works, one each month, because I find that that's where people get to be more hands-on and caters to a wider type of learner. So you can see, you can hear, you can practice activities. And so we have different sessions on that. So learning about WebDriver IO, security, accessibility, different things. Lunch lessons are normally put on by our HR group. So they do stuff around HR policies. They do stuff around pension plans, retirement, that sort of thing. Things that talk to more than work, like your life stuff. So you want to have a pension, maybe how do you go about setting it up? How much does the company contribute? That sort of thing. And then boot camp, I mentioned that we do boot camps for persons that are interested in joining tech. That's really important, and that can be a good recruiting tool, but it's a way of giving back to the community as well. There are lots of persons that want to join tech, and it's hard for them to see How they can join it, a lot of things are paid. Our boot camp, we try to make it as free. It's free. So a lot of persons in Jamaica join the boot camp. We had one US one as well. And then bench trainings. These are for persons that apply to Quality Works. They probably did okay on the interview in terms of culture fit and all the other things that HR look for. And we saw that they had potential to learn, but they just aren't there yet. So we put them in our bench training. We give them material to say, hey, you have a great personality, you have all of these things that you meet, but you just aren't what we're looking for in terms of skill set as yet. Here are some material that you can use to learn in the meantime, and we'll check back. We give them a mentor that they meet with every week or every 2 weeks, and we, at the end of that bench training, we do a check back in to see where they are now. Are they at a place where we can hire them? So we try to have a wide range of training. So from the very first time you interact with our company, we are investing in you, investing in your growth. And then breaks. We had a really good break thanks to that technical difficulty, but breaks are really important. If you are just listening to somebody going on and on, or you're just trying to do something, your brain kind of stops at a point. There's a point where you just can't take anymore. So breaks are really important because it gives people time to think. It gives them time to catch up sometimes, because as I mentioned, you have different types of learners. Also, use the bathroom, get some water, get some tea. I mentioned tea because I'm not a coffee drinker. So yeah, and it just overall is really good for persons. I find that after breaks, persons come back and they're like, okay, I'm ready to learn more. I understood what you were saying the first half. No, I'm good to go again. And activities, really important, and planning out your activities to ensure that it works from a beginner perspective to the higher perspective is good. It allows practice, it shares perspective, and also allows for catch up. And then availability, I talked about making it accessible, making it on demand. You can watch videos and it's in a central location. And then after trainings, what do? You have to spend some time reviewing the material. Do further reading if you need to, because sometimes trainings don't go as deep as you may want. So if you need to get a course purchase, you can talk to your manager about that. And then experiment. You may not find the right fit in what you do at the first time. So experiment with different things. So we're now in a world where persons are remote. So experiment with online. So PNSQC normally used to be in person. They did online, now they're doing hybrid. So experiment with different ways of learning. Go to conferences, have courses. There are so many different ways in which people learn. Social learning, I mentioned, persons like to learn sometimes in groups. So try to see how you can make it social versus one-on-one, and integrate it into your daily life. Make it a part of what you do. And also make it fun. Something that we did with security training, we did quizzes. So we would be like, okay, we have 4 teams, here's the material. We're going to have a quiz. And at the end of it, the person that gets wins the quiz, they will get an answer. It was more like a competition kind of thing. And people that I work with are very competitive. So once they know it's a competition, they're going to soak in all the material. So it's like a twofold thing. We also did like crossword puzzles. We did like scavenger hunts. So just try to find a way to make the material not boring, but fun in different ways. Gamify it if you need to. And then not the last point, we have 2 more, but we're almost finished. The 5th point is to build safety and trust. People should feel like they have a place where they can share what they don't know and what they need to know. Create open and safe spaces where persons can share what they did right, maybe what they did wrong as well. That's really important. And if your leaders can share their mistakes that they made, that makes people feel like, okay, they made a mistake, they're human, I can also make mistakes and learn and grow from them. And create a culture of support where you are supporting each other. Then implement the plan. So you've done all of that work. You've gotten buy-in from their leaders. You've gotten buy-in from everybody. You know what's there. You have a plan. start to implement it. Share your plan with the team, get sign off on it, share what the processes are going to be, and you have to be consistent. So it's probably not going to be as perfect the very first time you try, but try again, and see what fits, see what doesn't, and get feedback. So you may do a retrospective to see what went well, what didn't go so well, what can I improve the next time? And really importantly, give rewards, because that's really good. If somebody did something well, reward them, give them some recognition. We have something called a pop collar at work. This is something where you say, this person helped me last week and I want to pop their collar. Give them recognition for how they've helped you to solve a problem, whatever it is. So just a recap. First, identify what the existing culture is. Identify what the gaps are. Does it meet a good or bad culture? Then get leadership buy-in. They're going to be doing the training. They're going to be the ones that you need to give you the time and the budget. And then get your team buy-in. What do they need to learn? Where are they in their career? How can you help them? And plan how you want to implement it. Are there going to be trainings? Are there going to be, how are you going to make it fun? And then build safety and trust, implement it, and get continuous feedback. Real quick, so how it impacts quality is going to create an improved mindset. You're going to understand technology faster. You're going to be able to react to disruptions quicker. You're going to have a better tester mindset because you're going to be learning from so many different people. There's more techniques that you're going to be aware of and tools that you're going to be aware of, which is going to help the quality of what you're testing. And you're going to become more aware of possible issues. There is less silos. There's a whole team approach to learning. You're going to have increased productivity. And persons are going to move from a junior perspective to a senior perspective, which is really important. Overall, it gives you joy and fulfillment, especially boot camps where persons are just coming into tech. I've seen lawyers come into tech, chemical engineers. In particular, there's this person in my company, Yannick. She's doing really well. She was a chemical engineer and she came to one of the boot camps a year or two ago, and now she's gotten promotions. She's learning how to write code. She's doing test automation. So just to see the growth of persons as they come in and they transition from one level to another, to the next, it brings really a sense of joy and fulfillment. And you know that the quality of the products that you're going to be using is going to become better because of this learning culture. Thank you for your time. Stay connected with me through Twitter and LinkedIn. Any questions? Okay, you then you. Oh, okay, go on the left.
So we mentioned it. So I'm curious your opinion, like, what is the relief between learning hours per week that, like, we should probably better?
I personally try to do at least 2 hours per week. That has reduced because I have a lot of meetings now. But before I try to do 2 to 4. We do have a monthly workshop where it's a full 8 hours every month. So at least you get that in. So yeah, the question on Zoom was how much hours or how much time do you dedicate to learning per week? Some persons do it daily, but it all depends on your availability and what you have to do. I don't have the time to do it daily. I'm in a lot of meetings, but if you do have an hour each day, maybe Vernon yesterday was talking about how he was reading books on the train ride. So he had like a hour, 2 hour train ride, and he would read a book, maybe a chapter each day. And that over time adds up to a lot of things. Okay. Red shirt? No. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Metrics around learning sessions that, or not just saying like, hey, go learn this, you got an hour, you know, what are some metrics for milestones that you found beneficial that someone had measure? So like now it's just another job that now learning is turned into this like pressure thing.
Yeah. Some metrics that I do is I try to measure effectiveness. It's kind of hard, but I try to see whether persons have done an activity, they've implemented it in a project, or they have improved in a process somehow. Also, whether they've come up with some sort of innovation. So I try to see like what happens after that. So did they complete the activity? For example, if it was one on career goals, how many persons now have career goals? How many persons now have a portfolio with Playwright? That sort of thing. And then based on, because we're a consultancy, we have different client projects, I'll do a survey of the clients to see how satisfied they are, and then ask persons to say, did you implement any innovations or anything like that on a client project? And then I also do a satisfaction survey at the end of every training, but yeah. So if you do a training, if you're a trainer, I pay every trainer. Also, sometimes you get like Amazon gift cards, phone credit, different things. It's based on the culture that you have, gift baskets, that sort of thing. We sometimes do certificates. So for boot camps, you would get a certificate to say that you've completed that sort of thing. Also, maybe a LinkedIn post, maybe some person wants it to be visible. So to say, just a post to the wider world that we did this thing and I'm appreciative of you, because there are different love languages. Some persons like words, some persons like gifts, some persons just want to be recognized. So also, that's a different topic as well, finding out what the love language of the persons that work with you are in terms of how they would like to be appreciated. Not really, no. We do competitions like who knows the material best and answer questions, but not necessarily who finds the most bugs. So use the benefits, the return on investment. If you're going to say to leadership, we can improve productivity, we can increase retention. Retention is a really big point because it takes a lot of money to hire people. So if you can retain the good people that you have, you're going to save money. So find ways to put money into perspective, how they can save money, how they can improve the quality of the product, which is going to have their clients or the end users feeling way better about the product. So try to frame the benefits in a way that speaks to them. Was there any questions on Zoom? So the question on Zoom is, do you ever find that a learning culture can get distracted with topics that are really not really applicable? Like the latest and greatest tool for testing that does not meet the need of your specific team, which is very interesting and the team wants it to be applicable. If so, would you encourage learning about it? In a way, I would, but I would do a shorter session. So I would maybe do a 1 hour session just to explore it. Similarly to how you're trying to find what tool is going to be best to automate, you probably do a proof of concept. So I would probably do a proof of concept with the topic to see what about it would be applicable to my team, instead of trying to have a whole day workshop or a longer time invested in it. So maybe try to use a shorter time to feel it out. Maybe have one person do that. If it's applicable, then they can bring it back to the team. Yeah, that's all the questions that I saw on the chat. Anybody else in the room have any questions? Yeah, so the question was, do you encourage any other type of learning outside of your job or QA? Yes, I mentioned that we did the one about life skills. So I encourage that trainings be rounded. It's not more about work, it's also about life. So our HR also does different types of training that speaks to more than tech. So HR would do more of those life trainings. I would be kind of in charge of more of the tech trainings, but I do incorporate some life ones as well. So try to make it as rounded as possible.